Hey everyone, welcome to the SEEKS research training. This part of the training is going to focus on privacy and confidentiality. That's an important part of doing a research study, and I think it's really just an important part of working with people in general, is respecting and helping maintain their privacy and their confidentiality. So let's talk really quickly about why do we care about confidentiality at all, right? And a big part of it, especially for the group that we're working with, is confidentiality and privacy is control. It's allowing the people who have the information to control their own information. And so it's allowing the consumer to decide who gets to hear the information, who it gets shared with, and what's done with that information. And so that becomes really important. That's important in research, and I think it's just important in the group that we're working with. So our research, as you know from last time, is overseen by the Colorado Multiple Institutional Review Board. That's just the group that makes sure that we don't violate research participants' rights. And our research actually also falls under Hipaa. So the Hipaa Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act is one of the sets of rules that we need to govern our research that we need to adhere by. And so one of the big things about Hipaa, it's a federal security and privacy rule. So it's a rule. And the goal is to protect privacy for people around health-related information. So you might be asking yourself, this is a study on employment and benefits data. What possibly could be the health information that we're gathering? So this is actually under Hipaa, these are the categories that are considered protected health information. So I'm not going to read the entire list, but things like people's names, people's dates, in like specific dates, month, day, year. If it's just the year, it's not actually protected health information. Telephone numbers, people's zip code, which is their geographic data, their email addresses, right? So any of this information on this list in association with health information. So just having someone's name is not a problem. Having someone's name and their disability, that then becomes something that is protected under Hipaa for this research study, and then these groups called Hipaa covered entities. So for us, because we're doing a research study where we're gathering disability type, we are under Hipaa. It's important that we follow the Hipaa rules and guidelines. So you cannot release names, you cannot release specific dates that might help identify a person. You can't release telephone numbers, geographic data information, social security number, or email address associated with their disability type. You can't release that information and their disability type. So you can't be like, yeah, today I was working with this woman, Yvonne, and she has a physical disability, and we were talking about blah, blah, blah. That's protected health information. It's up to me to decide who gets to hear that information about me. So that's what we kind of have to make sure that we protect as we're working with the participants or the consumers as part of the study. So another key fact about Hipaa is providers need a signed release before they can share protected health information. So anything on our list that we're getting, we get the names, we get dates of things, we get telephone numbers, geographic data, social security numbers, email addresses, and disability type. Any of that, you need a release before you can share that protected health information. So for this study, our research team can't just reach out to people and say, hey, we hear you're interested in this SEEKS study, right? Because part of being eligible for our study is that I have a disability that fits with a SIL definition of a disability. So we can't just reach out to people and say, hey, I hear you have a disability that would make you eligible for the study, which would be a poor way to phrase that anyway. But we have to get permission to contact them. And so one of the things that we need you to do, and that we'll practice with you on a future module, is we need you to help potential participants, people who are interested in filling out the permission to contact form. And what you see on the right of your screen is this is a screenshot from that form. And that's on a mobile phone. So you can do this on a mobile phone, you can do this on a computer, but it helps you kind of walk through the process with the potential participant. And then if they're interested, they start filling things out. and then you can submit it to us. But this is our permission to call them and talk to them more about the study. So if they're at all interested in hearing more, this form should be filled out. If they're not interested in hearing more, you don't have to fill out this form. So after they fill out this form, after we can contact them, the first thing our research team will do is talk to them more about the study and ask them if they consent to be part of the study. So you're going to help fill out the permission to contact form so that we can reach out to them and talk to them. We are going to help them sign a consent form so that they can be in the study. And part of what they're doing in the consent form is they're saying, hey, you're allowed to go to the Center for Independent Living that I'm working with, and you're allowed to get this information about me. So they're giving us permission to get information from you about them. They're giving you permission for us to contact them to start the conversation. And the last big key fact about Hipaa is that providers need to keep patients, or in our case, consumers, data secure. So the point of Hipaa is making sure that there's security and people's information isn't getting out without their permission. This means information needs to be kept locked, which is password protecting or encrypted computer files. Paper files need to be in locked file cabinets or locked offices when they're not being used. You need to ensure if you have information on a computer up about a person that has protected health information, that someone walking by who's not part of your agency can't just see what's on your computer screen, which we'll talk about. And you also need to make sure that if you transfer information to us or to other providers, it needs to be done in a secure way. So how do you keep information secure? One, any kind of paper document, if you're done with it and it has personal information on it, shred it. So you need to go, your Center for Independent Living should have a shredder. If not, you need to go get a shredder, and we can work with you on that. But the information needs to be shredded. It can't just be thrown away or recycled. We talked about this, but paper files need to be in file cabinets that are locked when you're not using them, and or office doors that are locked. Need to be offices with locking doors if possible when you're not using them. The key shouldn't be sitting there. The key needs to be somewhere that people can't just walk by and find the key and know what it goes to. So when you're not using the information, when you're not using the file cabinet or the office, it needs to be locked. You should not be talking to people in your agency or to anyone else about 6 participants in a setting where you can be overheard. So sorry, I phrased that wrong. You can talk to people in your agency about a 6 participant, but you can't be talking to them in a place where someone can walk in and overhear you and put 2 and 2 together. So you can't go to McDonald's and talk to them about this client, Yvonne, this consumer, Yvonne, that you're working with who has a disability. You can't do that. You can talk to them about a consumer you're having a hard time with. You can talk to them more general, but you can't, someone overhearing you shouldn't be able to put 2 and 2 together, realize that you're talking about me. If you're meeting with a 6 participant, they need to be able to go into a room that you can shut the door if that's possible, or they need to be able to choose where they want to have the conversation with you. And so if you're like, hey, we're going to go over your benefits plan or your SSA application, and they're like, let's do that at McDonald's. And you're like, there's sensitive information. Like, that's okay. Let's do that at McDonald's. That's okay because they made that choice. It's their information. So as long as they understand that they have a right to decide where to have it and that the information will be sensitive, that's okay. You, on the other hand, don't have a right to talk about them without their permission in a place where you can be overheard. You need to make sure that people walking by can't see your computer screen with information on it. So can you make it to where you're backed up to a wall and someone can't really walk behind you? They can only walk in front of you. They have to come around your desk if they want to see your computer screen. There are screens you can put in front of your computer screen where it's hard to read it unless you're directly in front of it. You can, those are your big ways, but constantly be thinking about who's behind you. So if you're going to go work in a Starbucks, sit in the chair that's backs up to the wall so that people can't see it, and don't be in an online platform that's not protected. And computer files should be on a password protected or encrypted computer. You should have to log on to your computer for it to get on. If that's not possible, then you should have to enter a password to actually open the file. So it should be to where someone can't just walk up, turn on your computer and open the file without having a password. It's what makes for a strong password. A mix of upper and lowercase is a great, makes for a strong password. Alpha, letters and numeric numbers, right? So having letters and numbers together. Using special characters, I've given you some examples of that. We have an asterisk, an ampersand, an exclamation mark, a period. It's better if your word is not in a dictionary, and it's better if it's not something that's personal to you that a lot of people might know about you. So if you have a dog named Fluffy, Fluffy2 is probably not a great password for you. Really, what they recommend is that you make a sentence and you put the first letter of each word in your password. So here's a good password, the SITGPE exclamation E4E. And the sentence is, Seeks is the greatest project ever, exclamation mark, employment for everyone, period. So that makes for a strong password. The longer the password, the stronger it is. A lot of places require 6 to 8 characters for a password. So think through that. If you're going to transfer files, the file should not be on a flash drive or on your USB, any kind of mobile drive. Those are usually our biggest Hipaa violations in research. People lose those. They tend to lose flash drives, lose mobile drives if it's not connected to something, and then it has all that information on it. If you're driving and you're going to bring something to us for some reason, we're able to see each other again, and you've got you're going to bring your laptop to a meeting and it has all this information about participants on there. You need to make sure that your laptop, when you stop and go to the restroom or when you stop and get lunch or whatever, it's either under the seat or in the trunk of your car. People have driven around with research information on a laptop, left it on a seat or in the back, window of the car, and someone coming along steals it. To them, it's just a free laptop, but they could also end up with a lot of information that could lead to identity theft or anything like that. So don't have files on things that are mobile unless you need to, and then you need those to really be encrypted or password protected. The best way to transfer information is to use an encrypted or password protected file, and we'll talk about that. But we'll be emailing you information, you'll be emailing us information, so let's make sure that we can do it in a secure manner. Just so you know, as a data team, we're gathering data electronically. We're not gathering it with paper, A, because we're not going to be able to see people face to face because they're all over the state and there's not that many of us. But B, it's also more secure. So we don't have to worry about the transfer because it's on a secure website that's password protected and is HIPAA compliant. And so the two that we're using Qualtrics, which is like a survey tool. And then we're using RedCap, which is a research tool that's web-based. So before we end this, really quickly, I want you to kind of think through your consumers and how your Center for Independent Living does business, and try to identify what you think the risks are that make privacy difficult. Are you in one large room where people coming in and out all the time, and so it becomes hard to make sure people can't see your computer? Is there a way to change that? Is there a room that you can go to have private conversations if you need to? Is your center one where you can't tell who staff are? So do you need to have visitors wear badges so you know if you're about to say something to someone who's not a staff member? So kind of thinking through what you can do to make sure that privacy is maintained for the consumers that you serve that are also for the research participants, but I'd say just for consumers, just in general, it's nice to protect people's privacy. And so think about the risks and think about what you can do to kind of minimize those risks. And the final question really is thinking about, are consumers their own guardians, right? And so a person is in charge of their information legally if they're their own guardian. If they're not, they may not have a right to give some of that information to you, and that depends on the guardianship status. We really want people in the state to be their own guardians, but don't assume that they are. And so that's a great question to ask. And if you run into that, then let's call and let's have a discussion. So mistakes are going to happen. Someone somewhere is going to unknowingly or mistakenly reveal some private information. And if that happens, contact me within 24 hours. I don't like surprises. I don't want to hear about it later. I have to report it to the Institutional Review Board, to COMERB, within 5 working days. And so I need as much time to hear about it, to address it. I need to let them know. I need to let them know what our solution is to prevent this from happening again. And it's okay if you make a mistake. Let's just come up with a solution so others don't make the same mistake. And so this is my contact information, but this slide has both my email and my phone number. So if you're sitting there thinking about this and you've got some concerns about protecting privacy and you're not able to talk to me, you can bring it up on our weekly calls, or you can email me or call me. So thanks for taking the time to watch this video. It was great getting to talk to you. There will be a quiz that you're going to have to take on this and adverse event reporting. So if you do not understand this, it's good that if you could call me and we could have a discussion before you take the quiz. I have to report your score to the regulatory people so that they know that we're actually making sure people are educated. So I don't have to give your name, but I have to tell them what the scores are that people are getting. And if you are missing things, if there are things that aren't clear, I need to make sure that they are clear. So thanks for doing this. Thanks for taking it seriously. I look forward to working with you.